you had to go out and find a guy at left tackle. And all throughout the portal cycle, you just weren't really getting in the game with those players. We're not making much of a wave. Started to hear about Brandon Sneh, and it's like, well, State kind of thinks he's not very big. Okay, well, obviously, look, you get Miles McVay, but it hasn't been a starter. So you don't have that provenness on the field. DJ Chester has played left tackle. You're not bringing him in to be your left tackle. At least you hope not. Then the Jordan Seaton thing became a possibility because it looked like State was in a position where it's like, all right, they got to get Brandon Sneh, and man, that's kind of their best bet. The Jordan Seaton thing becomes a possibility, and State goes all in. They put all their eggs in the basket to make that happen. You understand it, but as we talked about when you missed on Seaton, there is a level of like, okay, you had this money that you could have spent on. You were willing to spend on Seaton. That's like, where is that money going now that you couldn't make that happen? Because it was always going to be the longest of long shots. Even with the connection, even with State going all in, your chances of making it happen were just so slim that if it didn't work out, it's like, well, where do you go from here? And again, we talked about this. I know I was saying this, but like we talked about this when you didn't get Seaton. Clearly, you had money that could have gone into other positions to try to upgrade. We talked about defensive line a lot. And edge rusher a lot. You didn't really do it. We'll see if the guys who came in at those spots ended up performing really well. But you didn't get the big name proven guys with high-level production. You could have also gone out and gotten multiple other offensive linemen to compete. You didn't do that. Obviously, you do get Brandon Sneh as your consolation prize, not to take a knock at him. And like I think he's a guy who still could have, even if you had gotten Jordan Seaton, and I know it's been said it was not a either or situation that how State was approaching it. They wanted to bring both in. Perfect world. But he ends up becoming the consolation prize once you don't get Jordan Seaton. And it's like, okay, well, you've at least given yourself, like you've done the bare minimum, but you've given yourself options. We'll see how it works. You got a guy who's played a lot at left tackle. Okay. Well, the other thing that happened, though, by your pursuit of Jordan Seaton was that Jamin James got ticked and was not happy and basically demanded a level of money Mississippi State was not going to be willing to pay him in order to keep him around. He was not happy that Mississippi State was looking to recruit over him. State was well within their rights to try to do that. That they're not wrong to take that approach. But because you didn't get Seaton, you end up kind of like Sneh for James was sort of a even trade is kind of what you're looking at. Now you don't have either of them. Now you don't have either. And you're left with it was going to be a question mark regardless, because until you see any of these guys play, you don't know. But you went from thinking, okay, I think they've got at least a competent player at left tackle to now they need somebody to step up and perform really well and do more than kind of we're expecting them to this year at one of the most important positions on the field. That is tough. That is really tough. And it's coming across more and more like State completely mismanaged this offseason. And again, I'm not trying to hate on the guys that are here and act like none of them can perform. I get it. There is potential in the room still. But I want to be able to look at the roster and say, I know they got a guy who could step in. They haven't done it. They didn't do it, and there's no changing it now. This is who you got to work with for next season. And now it becomes a big question of, all right, what does this mean for Jeff Lebby? What does it mean for the offense? Because now that's the biggest concern for the offense. It was going to be the biggest concern regardless. Are you staring the same thing in the face once again, that the offensive line just can't perform, and you got Camario running for his life back there? And your hope for success offensively is either Camario does something with his legs or you manage to be block just long enough for Ant or Marquise Johnson or whoever to get open downfield. If that's your offense, that's tough to sustain. And then you're not going to be able to sustain that within the SEC. There's some levels you can get away with it. You can't get away with it in the SEC, which is why it was so imperative that you went all in to improve that room as much as possible for this year. You added a lot of young guys, and I understand the approach of wanting to get it right. I do. But the concern when we started seeing these younger takes is, all right, well, how does that help you for 2026? Is that guy going to be ready to play? Bulldog, Mississippi, how big of the freshman lineman usually takes a year or two to bulk up to the right size for SEC play? All of those guys at this point, I would say, are big enough. They've all been in a weight room long enough that they're fine. Mario Nash was the one who was pretty light. He's listed up over 300 pounds now. We'll see if he can put on a little bit more weight throughout the spring and summer. But they don't have the playing experience, though. You're in a tough spot. You're really in a tough spot. Got this comment that it's a failure of leadership for Lebby. It's year 3, and we are an SEC team. We shouldn't have to beg for scraps in regards to linemen on the other side of the ball. I agree. You can't be a mess on the lines of scrimmage and be successful. Can't happen. And Mississippi State, right now, the last 2 years, they've been a mess on the line of scrimmage. Both sides. Defensively, we're focused on the offense right now. D-line has not been good enough the past couple of years. I like Dalen Evans coming in. I like that Will Whitson is back available. Hopefully he stays healthy. But they also need some more guys to step up. They really need to have hit on Amari Williams and Gus Cordova and these other guys that have stepped in. We'll see. But offensive line, again, I keep going back to it. You needed proven guys there that you can feel confident. We are putting a good offensive line in front of Camario Taylor. You don't know that you're doing that. I hope these guys are awesome that have come in. They're going to have to be. They don't really have a choice if you're going to be good enough offensively. But again, for year 3, when it's like, hey, man, you need to show real improvement on the field. And, Lebby, the interview that he did talked about, this is the most talented roster we've had. And it is. I did an episode on that. This is the most talent they've had since Lebby's been here. It's kind of, are you back to being an SEC level roster? And what was the holdup for me? Well, are you there on the lines of scrimmage? I don't know that you're there on the lines of scrimmage again. I don't. And this could be the thing that makes or breaks Jeff Lebby at Mississippi State. It's not the decision to hold on to Coleman Hutzler last year. It's not the fact that he waited to start Camario Taylor. How they attack the portal this offseason will determine whether or not Jeff Lebby is Mississippi State's coach for the 2027 season. That's it for me. There was a couple spots they did really well out in the portal. There was a couple spots where it's like, all right, we'll see. And now offensive line was one of those, and now offensive line's gone to being, I don't know, man. I don't know. When you're losing a guy with that much experience who you had penciled in, that's our left tackle, that's tough. Again, somebody could emerge. Somebody could step in, be fantastic. I hope that's the case. Whether it be one of the newcomers, whether it be a guy already on the roster. I know State's gone into seasons in the past where you've had left, questions at different offensive line spots. We've seen players emerge. The problem is you don't have the track record to be able to say, I'm confident that's going to be the case. You haven't seen it from Lebby. You haven't seen it from Lodeholt. But it's concerning. That is a big knock for Mississippi State football. What's going to happen with the offensive line? It's really – that determines the upcoming season. No question about it.